Don't spray graffiti. Spray Febreze, G. If you're a rude boy like me, you don't need to put your name on a wall to get some rep. Just spray your bed with a fragrant ting. Lick 2 shots at your mattress with a little bit of Thai orchid, and the following day, you're gonna smell wicked, you know. That's why I'm up in your mama's room right now, innit? Boom! Febreze. Want respect in the streets? Spray your sheets. Hey, hold on a second, hold on. This month is Who That's 3rd birthday, you know? Yeah, man, I've been doing this show for 3 years now. Raw. But you know, considering the occasion, I feel like I should be doing something a little extra for this episode, innit? I don't know, how about this? I'll tell you what, I'll even throw this guy in as a bonus. Yeah, that's more like it.
Let's get scratching.
I'm deciding to review 3 characters in one for this episode, partly because I'm celebrating my show's 3rd birthday, and partly because, if I have to be honest, when I've considered reviewing Jet Set Radio characters before, I've always kinda hit a brick wall with it. Jet Set Radio provides us with a small truck full of really unique looking characters to play as, but because of the way the story is presented, the characters themselves are not really active outside of general gameplay sections. They don't have much in the ways of personal backstory, they don't feature heavily in cutscenes, nor do they move the plot along themselves, instead having most of the story told to us by a third party. Because of this, when I have thought about reviewing these characters, I found myself limited to what I could talk about due to the way this show is structured. I could dissect and review their visual designs no problem, but I was finding it difficult to elaborate on anything else. To make individual episodes on these guys meant each episode was going to be short and empty of any substantial content, but to review 3 in one go, that would definitely fill up a whole episode quite nicely. So, I'ma do that. When it comes to Jet Set Radio, I love its style. I love its bright world filled with vibrantly coloured characters skating around and smacking up graffiti while they listen to sick tunes from a pirate station. It oozes a certain type of flair that I associate with. I have a lot of respect for this game. It just sucks I could never play this bloody thing. Like, Lord knows I've tried, man. Over the years I've actually lost count how many times I've given it a chance, and yet I just couldn't ever get to grips with the way it plays. I spend more time getting my ass beaten down by the police than actually tagging anything. I'd really love to see a new game in this series, one with a much more modern, fluid gameplay style. I mean, there's plenty of solid game engines out there they could build it on now too, so you know, SEGA, get on it, will ya? Yeah? Along with a new Nights into Dreams, a new Streets of Rage, a new Burning Rangers, a new Fighting Vipers, a new Outrun, a new SEGA Rally. You should probably expect spoilers. Jet Set Radio takes place in the fictional city of Tokyo-to, which is basically Tokyo, Japan, but acting like it isn't, because I don't know why. Shout out to all the ends of London, innit? Brap, gunfingers. The city of Tokyo-to is full of street gangs, all holding down their respective districts. Occasionally, turf wars will erupt between them as they attempt to out-tag their rivals and claim new territory for themselves. The police often have to deal with these conflicts, which is expected, though their captain, Mr. Onishima, tends to show a certain type of over-enthusiasm for the cause when he starts requesting backup from riot squads, helicopters, and even bloody tanks. They're graffiti artists, brethren. Slapping them on the wrist and giving them some community service should do the trick, yeah? You don't need to act like you're invading a small country. The main protagonists of the game are the gang called the DiGis, which is led by Beat, the founding member of the group. Their crew often listen to the pirate radio station Jet Set Radio, which is presented by DJ Professor K, who is about as much of a professor as I am a decent graffiti artist. K is constantly on the airwaves broadcasting to the gangs and keeping them in the loop of what's going on around town. What begins as mild turf wars suddenly takes a powerbomb into the conspiracy theory angle when some of the gangs start getting abducted by shady looking dudes in suits. The GGs personally learn more about this themselves when they recruit 2 taggers from a place called Grind City. They inform the GGs that Grind City had been overrun by an organisation called the Rokaku Group. This group abduct graffiti artists in search of pieces to something called the Devil's Contract, an LP record that is said to contain the soul of a demon inside it. The man running the organization, Mr. Goji Rokaku, intends on freeing this trapped demon and taking over the world with it. Right, but I just wanted to paint on a wall and then eat some McDonald's afterwards, man. I didn't sign up for this weird shit. By the end of it, Goji had gathered all the pieces of the Devil's Contract and attempted to summon the demon, but was stopped by the GGs because they killed him. Fucking hell. During the epilogue, it turns out the Devil's Contract didn't contain a demon at all, and it was just an old record. All the money and power had turned Goji insane to the point he believed an urban legend and attempted to take over the world with it, which then cost him his life at the hands of some graffiti artists on roller skates. Raw that shit.
Visual design.
Did you know? For the Sumo digital game Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, my girlfriend Trippy drew the Jet Set Radio achievement art featured in the game. She had also drawn sticker sets for Nights into Dreams, Burning Rangers, and Skies of Arcadia 2, but they went unused because... The interesting thing about the art direction and character designs for Jet Set Radio is that they tend to fuse styles together. It takes clear prominent hip-hop elements such as graffiti, breakdancing and DJing, which, as I highlighted in the Parappa episode, are 3 of the 4 central pillars that make up the core structure of hip-hop culture, and merges them together with fashion styles that feel more punk and J-pop based. I appreciate this because it in turn gives the Jet Set Radio characters a really unique aura. They're from the ends, they're a crew, but they're not stereotypically presented as your run-of-the-mill fucked out gang of delinquents. As such, they don't need to be presented with excessively serious designs. In fact, the more zany and colourful their designs are, the more it lends itself to the wacky styles of elaborate graffiti art.
Alright, so yeah, we got some sick graffiti, you know. Sick graffiti. Look at all this sick graffiti. Oh, Riku, no!
First up is Beat, the leader of the GGs. His design smacks you in the face with 2 very loud colours, the main one being yellow. It's an extremely bright tone to use, but that makes him stand out all the more because of it. Beat is considered the main character for the series, and such bright bursts of yellow are going to help him grab your attention on promotional material. The use of yellow also helps to direct your eyes to some of the more crucial design points on him. The spray can and the roller skates are coloured in this shade, and by sitting amongst the darkened tone of his trousers, their presence is made more prominent. You are drawn towards these items, and in doing so you are told everything you'll need to know about the type of game this character comes from. The secondary vibrant colour is green. This colour acts more like an accent than a main colour, but its usage is pretty important too, working as a bridge to the other aspects of Beat's appearance, connecting him all together. From the green on his skates, we are brought back upwards towards his shirt again, where green sits on the trim. This usage of green gives his shirt a clear border to it, the centre of which is housed by a graffiti tag of his name in Japanese. Lastly, green is then connected to his glasses, which contains the imagery of a sound wave on the lenses. Coupled together with the headphones, these last 2 items provide the final element that Jet Set Radio is built upon: music. From simply looking at Beat alone, his design sells Jet Set Radio to you. Nothing about his appearance misinforms the viewer, no design aspect is misplaced or unneeded, and it's this solid level of focus with his presentation that makes him the perfect mascot to represent this game. Gum's design on the other hand is a bit less advertisey than Beat's, but that doesn't make it any less impressive. In fact, she has one of my favourite designs from the whole game.
Man, quit playing around, it's just because she's wearing green, isn't it?
Gum's outfit consists of a long-sleeved stripy green top worn underneath a short-cut bodycon dress. Like Beat, Gum also has her tag located on her torso. Sometimes the tag will feature as a tattoo on Gum's left cheek and inner left thigh. It's not present on her in-game character model, but it has shown up on some promotional art as well as concept work. Whether it's a canonical feature or not though is unknown due to how much it vanishes and reappears. The layout for the rest of her design follows a similar flow to Beat's in how each part connects together. The glove she wears contains an orange symbol that is also featured on her pilot's hat. The pilot's hat is coloured in a very dark green, which is then paired together with her skates that share the same colour, and the skates themselves contain her graffiti tag, which in turn brings the design back around to her torso again. Everything bridges together nicely, allowing your eyes to travel around her design from one section to the next without missing anything out. One neat little thing about Gum's design is how she flips Beat's colours. While he wears yellow as a main shade with green assisting it, Gum works it the other way around, rocking green as the main colour with yellow creeping in to add a secondary shade to the mix. In Gum's case, the secondary colour is mostly being used to balance her top and lower halves together. The wheels on her skates contain the yellow shade for the bottom section and then bridge itself to the top half with her blonde hair. It's such a minimal use of a secondary colour, but it does the job superbly, adding a high-low balance to her appearance. Overall, her colour palette is easily my favourite out of all the main player characters, partly because it's green and this is me we're talking about, but also partly because it just feels so well presented and evenly spaced out with its sections. I look at her and I think of a bubblegum wrapper or something. Oh wait, that makes sense. And lastly, there's Professor K. While on a first glance it might seem like his design is going to be the craziest out of the lot, upon closer inspection you'll begin to see how pretty straightforward he is when compared to the other characters. The part that grabs your attention straight away is the guy's hair, which is a bushy spiked out afro. Considering that whenever he talks he's always loud and in your face, to be presented with a chaotic hairstyle like this complements his exaggerated behaviour. It's easily the most defining trait on his design. His facial features consist of a goatee to match his hairstyle, he has the letter K slapped onto his forehead, and he also wears dark shades that cover his eyes, presenting him as an old school unprecedented cool guy. His golden nose ring pairs together with the golden rings he wears on his fingers, and a white popped collar t-shirt wraps up his torso. And then that's it. We can't really say anything about his lower half because we never really see it. Like, I guess he wears black trousers, but aside from that we really don't know what his lower half actually looks like in detail because during the cutscenes the camera never pans down far enough. Shit, for all we know they might have not ever even bothered to finish his character model. Yo, someone hack the PC port and check his model for me, yeah? Hit me up on Twitter and tell me what his shoes look like, I'm curious. I know in the Game Boy Advance version of the game, Professor K is an unlockable character that rolls around in a pair of white skates, so I mean I guess that's something, but for the actual Dreamcast release, yeah, the game that is technically meant to be the main source of canon, who knows? The dude could have rocket feet and we'd be none the wiser. That's Professor K's design in a basic overview, and as I said, it doesn't do half as much when compared to the designs of Beat and Gum, but then again, maybe his design doesn't need to do that much work. After all, unlike Beat and Gum, Professor K has a lot of talking scenes and presents himself stronger with his personality. His speech and body language take more of a center stage than his wardrobe. When he broadcasts to you, his face is the part of him that's mostly in view, therefore his facial features needed to make the most impact, which is clearly where all the focus went when they designed him anyway.
Personality.
When it comes to personality, most of the main characters like Beat and Gum don't say or do much during the game, acting more like playable avatars with different statistics than anything else. That said, they're not completely void of personality. It just means that we have to magnify every tiny little detail if we are to better understand what they're like. Beat is a cheerful individual. He is most commonly presented with a smile, that of which sometimes turns into a smirk to show us there's a mischievous and rebellious side to him. He can also be considered as quite a calm person, appearing relaxed and chilled without ever showing any signs of anger. In fact, at one point, his DiGi hideout becomes overrun by frogs and Beat just shrugs the incident off like, yeah, I don't know what happened here, man. What I find particularly interesting about Beat though is the choice of voice they used for his English dub. Although he only ever says like 3 things throughout the entire game, every word is delivered with a certain type of high-pitched airiness about it.
Sup? Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
It almost feels nerdy in some aspects, if that makes any sense. He's a rude boy, but he doesn't have the voice of an overly serious one. He comes across a little geeky, but in a really complimenting way, and it helps to emphasize his cheerful qualities. Gum, on the other hand, is the character out of the two that harbours the tougher demeanour between them. Her in-game character model's facial expression is mostly displayed as stern, showing us a slight grumpy pout. Some of her official artwork also depicts her like this. Her voice lightens the mood though, presenting her tone as more sassy than serious.
Hey you! It's on! Yeah!
This in turn gives her attitude less of a hard case feel and more of a cocky streetwise atmosphere instead. This is further expressed by the occasional smile and wink she'll flash from time to time. Gum mostly presents herself as a no-nonsense person, but contains a friendlier side that she will bring out when she wants to. Then there's Professor K, arguably the character with the most personality, and rightfully so because Professor K is a DJ. And not just any DJ, he's not going to play you some easy listening tunes while you unwind in the bathtub. This guy plays hardcore urban music, and for that you need a powerful personality to present it. Professor K dominates your eardrums with his voice, loudly shouting over the microphone and making sure he's grabbing your attention. He gets so into it that saliva will usually spray from his mouth as he yells. He's also super expressive with his body language, constantly talking with his hands and making signs from time to time. His language is also built up with plenty of slang terms, showing us he does keep his ear to the street and is part of that lifestyle. That said, when it comes to Professor K's voice, I'm convinced they just went with the first take for like pretty much all of it. It sounds so rough around the edges.
Music that's violently smooth. It's Jet Set Radio. Even if you're locked up in the joint, don't forget to turn on that radio. Those froggies turned right back in the little tadpoles and swam away as fast as they could. Ribbit, ribbit. Let's go to the mailbag. A letter from Mr. Osaki asked, how do I get rid of these nasty roaches? Easy, just burn your house down.
Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if these were the rehearsal takes and the sound engineer just said, yeah, that'll do, before ducking out to go grab a cheeseburger. But as weird and artificial as these lines sound, there's something charming about the delivery of it all. Maybe it's just nostalgia doing its thing. During that time, some video game developers were still learning how to better incorporate voice acting into their production. Listening to Professor K makes me appreciate the vision SEGA had for this character and how they attempted to capture such an energetic personality.
Importance.
As far as the lore goes, Beat's backstory seems to suggest he left home and founded the DiGis, recruiting Gum as one of the group's first members. She, in turn, became the group's secondary leader, occasionally recruiting people for the gang herself. And that's about as far as any in-world importance goes for the pair of them. The rest of the story is a ride-along as we discover what's happening to the other gangs, but never really delving into the DiGis themselves. We don't spend any time with Beat or Gum doing Beat or Gum things. We just go with the flow while the world spins around them and drags them through the storyline. It's therefore kinda hard to really say if they're important or not. I mean, yeah, they are because they're the main protagonists, so of course they're going to hold importance to the game itself, but outside of merely being the player characters, they don't do much to impact their world. They run their district of Shibuya-cho, they slap up some graffiti here and there while taking over other turf, and that's about it. I wanna know if Beat is hustling a dead-end job to keep the lights on in his hideout. I wanna know if Gum is doing late-night naughty webcam shows and that. I want to see some drama, I want to see some content and context into their lives. I want to see their lives. Let me feel that lore, fam. Instead, the main importance lies with Professor K. He is the real heart of the game. Visually, Beat is the poster boy, but Professor K is the narrator. He is the character responsible for telling us what's happening and keeping things moving. Even the game itself is named after his radio station because of how central it is to their world. Professor K moves the plot forward. He informs other characters of what's going on. He even provides the bloody soundtrack to the story. Professor K does practically everything in terms of world building and providing us the storyline. There's only a few small parts where the narrative awkwardly shifts from him to another character called Combo, who is a graffiti artist from Grind City. His parts are used to help provide some brief exposition to the plot, but after that the role of narrator jumps back to Professor K. This game keeps this character constantly locked into the central role. We might never actually play as him, but like any good storyteller, he is the core foundation to the story in the first place. Without him there to tell it, there would be no story, and that technically makes Professor K the most important character to the series.
Conclusion.
Jet Set Radio.
When it comes to Jet Set Radio, the main strength for most of the characters lie in their visual presentation. Their designs are all unique, everybody feels exclusive to their own styles, and as an ensemble, the DiGis are a solid looking crew with tons of thought put into each of their appearances. But when it comes to anything else outside of their image, we start to find ourselves limited in scope. Instead, the personality and overall importance is given to one or two characters that tell the story from the sidelines. In a perfect world where SEGA have stopped sleeping on this series, a new Jet Set Radio will not only provide a great solid bunch of visually appealing characters, but actually utilize those characters more within its storyline. Get some interaction going, yeah? Let these beautiful creations live. And on that note, and in closing, I'll be giving Gum my Valhalla emblem for being one of my favourite characters from this game.
Boy, if you don't quit playing around...
Yes, it's because she's wearing green. Yo, this episode was brought to you by these wonderful people supporting me on Patreon. Without their help, this show would not be able to continue. If you'd also like to support Who Dat, please check the link in the description. Any and all help would be appreciated. Cheers, everybody.